Did Labour really fling open the prison gates and let 39,000 criminals stroll out? That's the headline you might have seen splashed across newspapers and social media feeds, sparking outrage and confusion in equal measure. But what's the real story behind those numbers? Let's break it down and separate fact from fiction. Spoiler alert. It's not quite a jailbreak movie, and no, there weren't mass escapes in the dead of night. The reality is far less dramatic, but arguably more complicated. Alternate opening. If you're picturing 39,000 prisoners vanishing overnight, alarms blaring, and chaos erupting across the country, you can relax. That's not what happened. The truth is, the situation was driven by a crisis that had been brewing for years, long before Labour took office. This isn't the Great British Bake Off, prison edition. No one was handing out cakes and keys. Here's what actually happened, step by step. The UK's prisons were bursting at the seams, think sardines, but with more paperwork, more stress, and a lot less personal space. Overcrowding had reached a breaking point, with cells designed for one holding 2 or even 3 inmates. Prison officers were stretched thin, and the system was creaking under the weight of too many people and not enough resources. When Labour took office in September 2024, they inherited a system teetering on collapse. The previous government had struggled to keep up with rising inmate numbers, and the new administration faced an immediate crisis: either find a way to relieve the pressure or risk total breakdown. Riots, staff burnout, and a justice system grinding to a halt. So they expanded an early release scheme called SDS40. This wasn't a new idea, but Labour made it bigger and faster, hoping to buy time and breathing room for the system. Translation: some inmates serving fixed-term sentences went free after serving 40% of their time, not the usual 50%. That means, for example, someone with a 2-year sentence could be released after about 9.5 months instead of a full year. It's a significant change, but not a blank check for anyone behind bars. But before you panic, let's be clear. Serious, violent offenders, sex offenders, and domestic abusers weren't invited to the party. The scheme was strictly limited to non-violent, low-risk prisoners, people serving time for things like minor theft, non-payment of fines, or low-level drug offences. Most of those released were non-violent, low-risk, and closely supervised with electronic tags and regular check-ins, sort of like parole, but with even more rules and oversight. They had to stick to curfews, report to probation officers, and could be recalled to prison at the first sign of trouble. It wasn't freedom, it was a second chance under a microscope. Yes, mistakes happened, and critics had a field day. Some people slipped through the cracks, and a handful re-offended, making headlines and fueling the outrage. The opposition and the press pounced, accusing Labour of being soft on crime and putting the public at risk. But the alternative was chaos. Jammed courts, police cells doubling as makeshift hotels, and a justice system unable to function. Judges warned of delays, police struggled to find space for new arrests, and victims waited longer for justice. The government faced a choice: act fast or let the system collapse. So, was it 39,000? Yes, over the course of the scheme, that many people were released early. But was it a free-for-all? Not even close. Each case was reviewed and strict conditions were attached. The goal was to keep the system running, not to throw open the doors. Sometimes, fixing a mess means making tough calls and a lot of paperwork. The early release scheme was a stopgap, not a solution. It bought time, but the real challenge, fixing the root causes of overcrowding and building a justice system that works for everyone, remains. For now, the headlines may grab your attention, but the real story is one of crisis management, compromise, and the hard realities of running a country's prisons.